Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world who are here sharing their expertise and wisdom so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, where we help businesses scale through outside-the-box visibility strategies. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're excited to have you here with us today. You're in for a treat. I've been having some fun behind the scenes. We're going to bring that fun to the conversation here today. If you're new, again, welcome, and please stay to the end because I have a special gift just for you. But without further ado, coming from all the way from New York, I'm excited to introduce you to Sam Palazzolo. So welcome, Sam, to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me, Heidi.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here and for taking time. You are a busy, busy man. So can you share a little bit about yourself, your companies, and your role within them?
Sure. Yeah, I led a couple of tech initiatives to exit. 12 years ago, we formed Tip of the Spear, which is a family office. It's an investment vehicle for us. We also started 4 years after that in 2016, a 501c3. We call it the Javelin Institute. We do primarily executive development. So think leadership development, executive coaching programs. My career spans Fortune 500, as well as I'm a two-time exiter, I mentioned. Smack dab in the middle of that, I spent a number of years consulting, and I'm ex-Deloitte. And the programs that I primarily run today are surrounding business growth initiatives, primarily with small, medium-sized businesses, anyone 25 million to 250 million, and organic growth, people process technology, or inorganic growth, both M&A, merger and acquisition, as well as IPO. So that's how I spend my days today. But I'm so happy to be with you today. Let's get into some growth topics.
Yeah. So you just mentioned that range of revenue, the size companies that you work with. So what tends to be the biggest inflection point for growth in that range, in that business size? And how do you help them navigate it?
I think it depends. As you go through the stair step of annual revenue, each organization probably has their own challenges. So I don't know that there's necessarily a one size fits all. There are organizations, I want to say there's a common reason why most reach out to me. I'm an accountant by training, but I also love the marketing and sales, that whole rev ops arena. So about 87% of the folks who engage with me outreach because they are either struggling with their go-to-market strategy, they're in need of re-go-to-market strategy, maybe their branding isn't on point, they need something there, or it could be something other than. So again, no one size fits all, but about 87% of folks approach me primarily because of their sales marketing initiatives aren't working the way that they want them to.
I love that you're a numbers guy and a creative guy. You're an accountant, but still love that marketing side of it too. How fun.
I'll tell you where it comes from. It's no big secret. I was in charge when I worked for General Motors, Fortune 500. They were number one, right? When I worked with them. But I was in charge of completing and processing expense reports for our various departments at one of the divisions. And I recognized that the marketing and sales folks, they had the biggest budgets, they had the best events, and they had the largest expense reports. They just seemed to be having the most fun. And so I said, you know what? I think I'm ultimately going to end up there. Now, in an accounting finance arena, I was the division's financial forecaster. But I think that background in accounting finance helps me in that marketing sales arena because how many startups, how many organizations come to you with the problem of, or maybe it boils down to nothing happens until you sell something. And so I've always had that in mind. But that finance accounting background, it certainly helps me leverage it there and hold clients accountable towards the achievement goals we set.
Yeah. So Sam, your go-to-market operating system spans tech, healthcare, and finance industries. Can you walk us through the key components of that system and how it works to drive growth across the different sectors?
Yeah. This is my favorite thing. And again, I came out of tech. Tech is center lane for me. Adjacent lanes are both healthcare as well as finance. It's hard to be here in New York and not do something in a financial capacity. But my client base also spans industries. And it goes back to my original senior partner at the consulting firm who said, Sam, I want you to be an industry agnostic generalist purposefully. I want you to be an inch deep and a mile wide because whatever comes at me, I want to be able to flip over the wall to you and I want you to be able to run with. So when I look at, and we designed our GTM, our go-to-market operating system, with a couple of key elements to them. And I look at it from it, we built it to solve for three things. The first thing is that we want there to be repeatable market entry vectors. In other words, I hate spray and pray outbound initiatives, for example. I want there to be real primary entry through either their existing service lines or portfolio relationships that they have. And I also want it to be through kind of who it is that are their current clients, right? The other thing that I would look at is how is within this first repeat market entry, how can we compress sales cycles by upwards of 25 to 100%? And we do that by leveraging AI. But that's the first thing with our operating system. The second thing is that I want to be able to offer a realistic architecture that actually converts. So, in other words, how many times have you heard it where we have all kinds of prospects that are out there? Prospects that are out there. Now, prospects that aren't qualified shouldn't be considered prospects. It's the qualified prospects that convert. Those are the ones that we're really interested in. So, in other words, how is it that we can de-risk those prospects or maybe create friction points so the qualified leads float through? That's the type of architecture I'm talking about in the second. The third, I mentioned I was a financial forecaster from an accounting finance perspective. I look at sales and our operating system in very similar fashion. In other words, how can we forecast with predictability through both stage hygiene and velocity tracking? Because let's face it, solving for right here, right now, that's great. A lot of folks, we're taping this, it's Q4 2025. A lot of folks are outreaching to me. They want to salvage what's left of this year. They've got to, their jobs are on the line, right? But more importantly, we want to set up 2026 for success. And if we can get out of the gates quickly in 2026, that's game one. So those are the three components of our GTM operating system that I designed. Make sense?
Yes. And I'm curious, that last piece that you said would, really getting out of the gate in 2026 properly, what do you suggest for companies to maybe look at? What would be, if a company is coming to you and they're just like stressed, what would be your number one suggestion to them to make sure they're setting themselves up for success in 2026?
Yeah, if things aren't going the way that you want them to go, what do you do now? And I think that there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Most in a sales, marketing, leadership capacity, whether it's a chief revenue officer or chief marketing officer, sometimes depending on the size of the organization, it can be a couple of C-suite leaders or maybe some partners if they're that type of a service organization where they'll drive the majority of sales. Here's the common faux pas that I see more times than not, and that is it is super sexy to want to be able to look forward. In other words, customer acquisition and new customer acquisition, that's where the sexiness is, right? But I'm going to encourage folks to be unsexy. I would like them to, quite frankly, just be boring. And let's look at our current client base. Who do we currently have? Who did we currently have? Past tense from the perspective of are no longer fully engaged with us. What can we do to re-engage those that have left, who've worked with us before, and those that are currently with us? What can we potentially do to offer them some of our other opportunities to work with us? In other words, cross-sell, upsell opportunities. That unsexy, that boring aspect of sales and marketing, it's kind of the bird in the hand that you don't want to focus on. Everybody wants to focus forward on the two in the bush that I think if we do this, we can get them. If we leverage AI, if we do more advertising, if we fill in the blank, I'm going to encourage folks, if you want to get out of the gate fast in 2026 and you want to salvage something here in 2025, look at the bird in your hand and what are you doing with them?
Mm, such great advice. And you're talking to creative. So we like to look at what's next, right? Where can
It's
we go from
fun.
here?
It's
It's the
exciting,
sexy, the
right?
fun. And yeah, we definitely need to, take a step back. And I always say, to our listeners and to clients, look at what's working, but also you have to look at what's not working. So you don't continue doing that and bring that into 2026 because it's easy to ignore what's not working and just keep going. So yeah, I love the advice that you gave.
No, it's also one of those situations where, and I had a conversation earlier today with a client regarding we set up an accountability feature. Think of it as a dashboard. It's nothing more than a big scoreboard that we have on the wall. If we were at Yankee Stadium, we would know what inning we're in and we would know what the score of the Yankees versus whomever. And the Yankees better be winning. But the moral of the story is that we have a scoreboard and we should be looking at it. A scoreboard in and of itself isn't going to do anything for you. There's got to be a manager who's managing the game, who's going to do something about the score in the event that they're not achieving the results that they want to,
Mm,
right? And so this is that accountability feature where you've got to build those types of things into the process and into the program. How does that occur? Frequent interval reviews of the scoreboard, not
yeah.
just a checkbox activity, but a review of this is what we're forecast, this is our actual, we're either over or under, and either way, how do we do more? Because if we're under, we got to get back up to goal, and if we're over, well, how do we spur this thing on and do even better, right?
Yeah.
That's another key feature when it comes to metrics, KPIs, OKRs, call them whatever you want to, right?
Mm. And such a great analogy. Make you break it down and make it super simple to understand and to, go like, wow, yes, that's doable. That's doable for me. You mentioned AI. So of course we got to talk about it. It's part of
Sure.
growth now in business. You can't talk about growth and not talk about AI. So I'm curious for you with your companies, how have you leveraged AI to simplify your business, or how are you like what is it creating for you in your inside of your business, and how are you leveraging it?
Yeah, I am an eater of our own dog food. Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't take our own counsel of what it is that we provide to our clients and do it internally. And a lot of times we'll skunk work, we will beta test internally before we bring it externally. So I went to a meeting, it was an AI and deep tech conference about 3 years ago. And I remember there was a speaker who said everyone should have a chief AI officer, just like you would have a chief information officer, chief revenue officer, chief financial officer, so on and so forth. You need to have a chief AI officer. Now, what that chief AI officer does is essentially ensure that a couple of things. One, we have the appropriate policies and procedures around AI. In other words, it's just like a cybersecurity policy and procedure from a compliance perspective. Are we operating on the safe side of the street?
Mm,
And in the event that we have folks who go maybe to the not so safe side of the street, what do we do when we put them in the penalty box? How do we get them out of the penalty box, right? So, coming out of that conference, we established that type of an AI policy and procedure. The other thing, though, that we did was one of our tech dev clients that we work with, where we focus exclusively on mastering their revenue opportunities. One of the CEO of this tech dev firm has this great quote that goes something like, when it comes to coding and developing, what used to take us 8 weeks now takes us about 6 hours. So
mm,
think rapid time compression. And we took a look at that. We took a look at the chief AI officer type of theme, and we went back to one of our teams internally where we had 8 folks, and we said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have everyone basically interview for their jobs because we're not leveraging technology nowhere near what we should. And we want everybody within a 30-day window to come back to us with how is it that we're going to leverage AI internally so that way we can do more with less. We can do more with less." we had, and this is shocking, we had 50% of them, Heidi, that initially threw in the white towel. They were like, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to do that. And it's like, okay. So 50% left, right?
Mm.
So we're down to four, from eight to four. Of the four, we had two of them that got to the end of the 30 days, and they basically gave what I would say would be the world's worst pitch or presentation. It was nowhere near what we were looking for.
Mm.
So they were out two. Of the two remaining, they both knocked out of the park. And we kept the two of them. They essentially did the work of 16.
Wow.
So not just the eight on their original team, but one of them excelled so much, we slid them over to our own skunk work project, where now they're on pace. They will do revenue wise as much as the six or the eight people were doing prior to, which are now 16 people. Because the one person who's still there, they're managing and building what 16 people traditionally from our history would do. So,
Wow.
so that's how we're leveraging it. We develop five pillars. When I mentioned no two clients are alike for us. When we
Mm.
go in, we need to do just like Deloitte would do a quick readiness assessment. Within a week's time frame, we need to understand all the ins and the outs. And so we identified and developed a five pillar methodology. Everything from strategy and AI, people process technology, and then if we're not going to grow this thing organically, what are our inorganic moments for accelerated growth surrounding M&A and IPO? But backing up all the way, five pillars, 92 sub-pylons within the pillars supporting them. This is
Wow.
how we do a fast start. And we utilize a lot of AI to build a knowledge book on the business based off of both public-facing content as well as private content that the clients will provide to us. So
Mm.
that's how we get out of the gate quickly with our clients.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And I want to talk about what you've developed. You've developed something called like the first 100 days play call sheet. Is
Yes.
it's probably similar or springboarding off of what you just shared with your outside the getting out of the gate process that you have in
Yep.
place for new clients. And this is for executives stepping into new roles. What are the critical actions that you believe happen in those first 100 days? And why do many fail to take them?
So we came up with this primarily by looking at from an FDR, from a Roosevelt perspective. President Roosevelt identified the first 100 days of the presidency are crucial. And we've seen it throughout our clientele, and I've seen it throughout my career path. When I jumped into a chair, the first 100 days were crucial. And we wanted to give those that jumped into the chair, that's how we developed this first 100 days play call sheet. So think of this as if it was a game of football, on the sidelines would be the head coach. He'd have a laminated 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and on it would be the plays that they were going to call. Whether if they were on offense, if the defense was doing this, they would look to see this is the play that we're going to call based on what they're doing. If we want to be aggressive, we are going to do this, and then we're going to see what their defense is going to do, and we could shift. Anyway, that's the genesis of where the play call sheet came from. It was meant to give an unfair strategic advantage to the leaders that worked with us in their marketplace. And that's exactly what it does.
Mm.
Now, you asked the question, and let me answer it. What is the common flaws that we see with leaders when they get in the chair for the first 100 days? When I was at General Motors, way back in the early part of my career, we had Stephen Covey, Dr. Covey, come through, and he taught a course called Principled Centered Leadership. He didn't even call it the seven habits back then. He called it Principled Centered Leadership. But one of the seven habits was seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is one of the seven habits of highly effective people and leaders, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. But that's not applicable with today's landscape in a business climate. I see more leaders get in the chair and they are just hypersensitive to wanting to understand. So much so that they never get into proactive or even active gear and start dictating what it is that's going to make not only themselves, but the department successful. So this first 100 days play call sheet, very action oriented. It is meant for the leader to give them a strategic advantage heading into those first 100 days, and specifically to offset the slow pace associated with understanding and not taking action.
I would like to shift gears a little bit. We've been talking about growth, and you've been sharing how your business is working and what you do for your clients. I'd like to talk about a little bit about the marketing piece that you love to, for your companies that you have. Like, how are I'm sure you're not the only game in town with how you serve your clients. So how are you getting out there? How are you staying top of mind? How are you standing out from the competitors, the noise out there with marketing, like visibility? What's working for you? And on the other side of the coin, what's maybe things that you've done that haven't worked for you?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think we are a group that is perpetually tinkering. One of my grad degrees is from Northwestern in marketing. And the thing that I can really appreciate is an A/B test, but we take it to an exponential level. We'll go A, B, B, C, C, D, so on and so forth. We are perpetually tinkering with what works and what doesn't work. And we're a service provider, right? And service providers have the unfamiliar territory of having to build trust ASAP if they want there to be traction in a prospective client relationship. It's the same type of a customer journey that any organization would go through, from awareness all the way through educate, 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 until a client ultimately identifies, you know what, let's do it, let's go. Sometimes it's the offer, right, towards the tail end, but we look at it very simply from the awareness through education, education, education. How can you get better at that? And this is where I mentioned earlier, one of the skunk work projects we have the one individual working on, and it's specifically in this arena. Service providers generally want to tell everybody that we get all of our business through referrals. But our referral market, let's face it, I know 10,000 people, okay? But 10,000 people is only this much of the market. Guess how big the market is? Just back up. Think Tam, Sam, Sam, and all of a sudden, I'm looking at a market that should be this, right? So how do we outreach to those folks? We do it through a combination of plays, and it's your classic inbound, outbound strategy. We've been with HubSpot since 2014, pre-IPO with them. So we're big believers in the whole inbound methodology. I think to date, I have 8 books that I've published, 2 of which are academic. So I teach at the collegiate level. I'm on faculty at UNLV. But I've also written over 400 articles at this point in my career. And it's one of those things where those types of resources, content, collateral, act as an inbound magnet. But that only gets you so far. You've got to do some outbound today. And there's so much noise. There's so much noise out there. I mean, direct mail from our perspective, for our purposes, it's dead, right? I mean, in a service capacity, direct mail was never applicable, but email certainly was. But email, if you send out 1,000, you may get 1 response, 3, and you're considered King Kong. Those are still terrible numbers. So there's got to be a combination of outbound through email, as well as some of the social channels and an advertising to, again, draw in through special offers. I don't know that it's any secret, but I know this much. This myth that I want to bust is it's a referral-based business, right? I get it. There's higher trust with referrals, right? Less time involved, awareness, education, education, education. But even then, that market, referrals, so small.
Yeah, you say so much good, like gold there, because I hear a lot of people that will tell me that their business is very referral based and they're happy with that. But like you said, you really put it into perspective that is a small piece of the pie. There's so much more of the pie that's being untapped when you're just focused on referrals. And if you have a cap to where you want your business to be, maybe that's good for you, right? Maybe that works for you. But if you're building a business and you have employees, that rely on you, at some point you don't want to have all of your eggs in one basket. because you're putting yourself and your business and them at risk.
I'll share with you a strategy
Yeah.
for referrals specifically. I think if it's beneficial to your audience.
Absolutely.
The thing that I recognize with referrals is that everyone needs them, but people hate giving them. Everyone needs them. People hate giving them. So how can you make them hate it a little bit less? What we did was we proactively will reach out to people that are in our network and we'll ask for referrals and we'll share with them that we have a referral partner program, right? We have a referral partner program. In the event that you refer someone to us, we're going to white glove the relationship because of our relationship. But more importantly, when we win, you win. And think of it as maybe they can be a strategic lead advisor or lead provider to us. But it's one of those things where we generally, depending on which profession they're in, some attorneys can't accept those types of provider bonuses that we'll give out. But we do that as well. And we're transparent. We share what it is that we'll share with in the event that you introduce us to someone as a referral and we ultimately consummate in a contract. We want to see, we're just not in it for us. We're in it for all of us. So if you provide us with a referral, we think you should win too, because you're our strategic partner at that point. But it is one of those things where it goes back to what my mother always told me. You're not going to get anything if you don't ask. So we ask.
What's the worst they can say? No. Right. And if they're happy with you, they want to spread it around because they also want to let people know that how well they're doing with who who they're working with too. People love that. And they love to help. We get nervous about asking for things because it just feels uncomfortable for many of us. But at the end of the day, people love to help other people. But we have to ask in order to allow them to give that gift back to us. And, going back to the piece of the pie, and I love how you shared how you do it. I was speaking with somebody yesterday who referral is a big piece of her business. Referrals are important. That definitely needs to be a piece of your business for sure. And I love how you create a referral partnership program and creating that win-win. And for those of you listening, that win-win can look however it looks for you. It doesn't have to be a financial win-win, like you giving them a financial piece. It could be something else. It could be like Sam shared, their advisor, or some of those partners that you have or that refer you. Some of your clients can accept a financial piece. So come up with different options for your people that they feel comfortable receiving as well as can receive legally, and that you feel comfortable dispersing, depending on what that looks like, to create that win-win relationship. That is key. And what she was sharing with me yesterday is she lets every client know on the onboarding that after we work with you for so long and you're happy with us, we do a good job for you. We're going to come back and ask you if you know of anybody that you can introduce us to. We're not going to ask you for, but just an introduction. We'll do the work, but just an introduction. And then they're like, okay. And then they forget about it. And then they're like, oh yeah, you actually did come back and you asked me. And they're more open and receptive to it. And they're excited about it because you already told them it's coming, right? Yeah. You already told them.
It gets even easier if they were referred by someone.
Absolutely.
Right? So that way the flywheel gets well lubricated, spins real fast. That's what makes business happen.
Yeah.
So, it's an often overlooked aspect, especially for businesses like ours that are service oriented.
So your cold outreach, like you said, that's a key piece too. And there's companies that I've spoken with and like cold outreach doesn't work. As long as your expectations are realistic, it does work. And you've got to understand it can't be the only piece of the pie that you're using. That's what I want for those of you listening to Sam to grasp, especially if you're growing, if you're in a startup or you're in that growth phase and you're frustrated, is that there's all different pieces. And I'm not saying you do them all at once, because that could be overwhelming, especially if you're, a smaller company and you're new. Taking pieces and understanding what the realistic outcomes are. Sam mentioned email marketing. Is it important? Should you be building a list? Absolutely. You should be building a list. If social media goes down, and it has, and it could again, you have that list to fall back on. You still have a list of buyers in your business that you can go to provide value and so forth, and make your offers to. If you don't have that list and that goes down, you've just lost a piece of your marketing for however long. I think we lost Facebook and Instagram, and I don't think LinkedIn's gone down, but the other one for 24 hours, I think it was just a couple of years ago. So it happens, and don't think it doesn't happen. So having that list, doing that outbound is really important, and understanding that 2% is a good number to be hitting in your response rate. If you're getting over 2%, celebrate, because that's a good number. But for those of you who are thinking, I'm not getting 20, 30%, it doesn't work, then we just got to get realistic with what the expectations are. And I think that happens in any type of marketing you're doing. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, Sam, because I think that was a key piece that I wanted to just expand upon. So what's next for you all? What are the big goals for 2026? We were talking about it for others. What are the big goals for you in 2026?
Yeah, so we're in that perpetual tinkering mode. We decided that we're going to do something a little different in 2026. Traditionally, we would go in, we'd work with a handful of clients throughout the entire year, and we would see how fast we can scale this organization up, right? We're in 2026, we are going to take a handful of organizations through what we call a 90-day scale sprint every quarter. So 4 organizations come in, we put them through the same paces as we would all of our other clients, but a rapid compression of time frame with them. The benefits are that they'll get hands-on experience, and we'll also be able to see tractionable results within a significantly shorter time period, sometimes as little as 2 weeks. So our 90-day scale sprint is one of the things that we're launching. We had some folks who said, 90-day, Sam, that sounds like a lot, because we beta tested it this year. It's a lot of money, I'm not going to lie, but it is one of those things where we said, you know what? Let's get in the sandbox. Let's get in the sandbox for 30 days. We've lowered the price point. We all start out the same anyway. So let's see if we can engage therefrom. So a 30-day get out of the gate quick, a 90-day scale sprint. They're both in succession. If you like the first 30 days, stick around for the next 60. That's kind of how we look at it. But it is one of those things. That's one of our hierarchy of offerings that we've retweaked heading into 2026. The other thing is that we have a number of leaders that are super, I don't want to brag, but they're just super subject matter experts. And how is it that we can plug them in? And in the past, we have been asked, we've turned down, but we're not going to anymore. We've turned down some fractional or interim C-suite leader opportunities, but we're going to take advantage of it. And we're going to say, yeah, we can help. And so we're going to take on assignments like that. We're also going to produce some really great collateral. You mentioned our go-to offer, the one that we provide the majority of on a week in, week out basis, is this first 100 days play call sheet. And I don't care what chair you're sitting in, if it's the COO, if it's the CEO, CRO, even if you're a VP of sales, if you're new in the chair for the first 100 days, this is your tool. So, and I know we're going to share that type of information in the show notes.
Yeah, stick around. You're going to get that playbook. So we got it for you. Sam, you mentioned a couple of times let me back up. I love how you test, and I haven't heard somebody on this podcast, and we've talked to probably over 140 since January, and we're now in November. We've talked to a lot of people on this show, and I haven't heard anybody talk about testing as much as you do. And I think it's fantastic. And another gold, I'm not going to say nugget, a gold bomb that you're dropping there, because that's another key piece for, founders, CEOs who are launching businesses or in the growth phase. Like testing, it doesn't matter how far along you are in your business. Testing is always important. Your messaging, your marketing, everything that you're doing, your things happening inside of your culture, things happening outside with your sales, like everything is always testing. And I love that you're so flexible with it. And so what's the word I'm looking for? Like you wrap your arms around it and you're like, yes, let's just keep testing. Because I feel like too many companies, and why many businesses fail, is they're like, oh, that didn't work, I'm done. And that's not the case. If you look back on all successful people, they failed numerous times, and they never saw it as failing. They just saw it as, okay, it's one more thing that we're closer to the win, right? We're closer to the right step. So I just wanted to bring that up because you mentioned it multiple times throughout our conversation. And I just think I love that how you just do it. And you're like, we don't even just do A/B. We do A/B, C/D.
Here's the challenge, and this is where, and I believe the Perplexity CEO is correct. We should be bumping our heads against 20% unemployment early 2026. I wouldn't be surprised if the number isn't higher. And especially as we head through Q4 here, you and I pre-gaming for this conversation, I did a lot of reduction in force consulting. I was the bad cop called in to have the tough conversation that the senior leadership team didn't want to have with their associates. So I'm used to having a reduction in force conversation. Q4, you want to make your financials look good? Employee costs, they're the highest expense structure items you have on your financials. So want to make yourself look good heading out of Q4, out of 2025. It's a people thing. But here's where AI, I think, can benefit most organizations. You've got to really understand we probably have a normal bell curve, right? A normal curve. We have some bad initiatives. We have some good initiatives, the bulk of 80% of our ideas are probably good. And then we have some really great ones. Again, it's a tail, right, in the bell curve. So 10%, 10%, 80%. What AI has done is it has shifted everything forward, everything forward. What was maybe not so great or bad before, AI can make good. What was good before, AI can make great. And what was great before, it can become exceptional with AI. So that's our AI world.
Yeah.
If you're not living in it and you're not trying to tinker or test, you're
You're
probably
going to fall
going to,
behind.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
going to go the way of, and it'll be in a very short order. Again, rapid time compression. We all know the stories of, well, how come Kodak didn't, they had the patents and everything for the digital camera. How come they didn't do it? And it's because Kodak didn't want to do it. There's going to be more stories, though, than just the Kodak or fill in your favorite organization that didn't adapt to the changing times. It's going to happen so fast here over the next couple of years. We'll see organizations that they were behemoths. They were the mighty big SMB company, perhaps. They're going to go out of business if they don't adapt quickly.
Yeah. And one of the most popular that we always hear about is Blockbuster with Netflix. Netflix approached Blockbuster. They were like,
Yeah.
no. And we don't see a Blockbuster anymore. So that yeah, that great examples there. Kodak, I forgot about that one. That was a great example. So Sam, the goals that you mentioned, if I could give you a magic wand and you can wave it over one challenge or issue that you're having right now that could hold you back from achieving those goals, what would it be and why? And you can go poof and take it away.
Yeah, the magic wand. The magic wand that I see for our clients is the same for us, and that is we can do the best inbound, outbound marketing. We can have the best sales development reps who train or who educate or who make us a client aware, educate. But there's always the final stage. How do we convert? That's the difficult part. And one of the things that we look at, because, and this is where the inner accountant in me and the metric accountability comes in, we wanted to look at each of our stage to stage conversion rates. If I had a magic wand, I would make it go poof and have those stage to stage conversion rates again in that leveraging AI moment. What was not so good becomes good, what was good becomes great, and what was great becomes exceptional. That's where I would focus my time and efforts and energies. That's what
Mm.
the magic wand would be really helpful. What could help prospective clients convert? And again, maybe there's some things that we could do to rapidly compress that cycle.
So you mentioned SDRs. Are you utilizing AI yet for your SDRs?
We have, and we've also recommended a couple of the RevOps or RevGen type AI platforms for it. So think chatbots that could potentially replace some type of an 800 customer success manager or an SDR who would man those types
Mm.
of lines. We've also done some other things that are chatbot adjacent that are AI leveraging. Here's the reality of the situation. and it's true for us as it is for our clients that we work with. Sometimes leveraging AI within the sales cycle is a lot like trying to stay on a dating app too long, right? And we worked with a dating app several years ago. At some point, you've got to get off the app and you got to get into the person-to-person conversation.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
but it doesn't mean that you can't leverage AI within that person-to-person capacity. I'm
Yeah.
talking about back to what I mentioned earlier, full knowledge book built based off of public facing content and private content provided by the client will give you insights into what it is that the company stands for, what they do, and how they do it. And if you can assist the live agent with scripting based off of real time, what the prospective client is sharing with you, that's where AI can come in masterfully. It it's almost the equivalent of if you've seen Palmer Luckey at Anduril, the young guy who sold Mark Zuckerberg the virtual reality goggles, right? The Oculus for 1.2 billion or however much it was. He built this helmet now at Anduril for our defense fighters that should dramatically reduce injuries, fatalities, but more importantly, this helmet uh, should create the lethalest fighting force on the planet. You'll be able to see through walls. So, anyway, if you think of where AI is going in that military example, but for
Yeah.
business, because sometimes business can be war, that's exactly where it is that we're trying to go with our clients as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that. And like you said, we have a lot of clients that have a really good high success with an AI SDR, but you do need to have that in person to person conversation. That's what's going to close it. So you want to definitely have good salespeople on the back end. There's only so much the AI tool can do. It's not taking over everything, people. People still want to buy from people. They still want to get to know people before they make that final decision. Trust factor is lower than ever these days. People do research. They're spending more time looking into you, wanting to know your success stories, things like that. Referral based, a lot of it is like just there's a lot of trust that needs to be built along the way. So yes, the AI SDR is great, but you also need that person to person communication and connection. So I know we're going over. You told me that you had an extra few minutes, so I did take advantage of that, Sam, because this was such fun conversation. So thank you for this. And can you share with people how to connect with you and get to know more about both your companies?
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. The best way to get a hold of me is sampalazzolo.com at that website. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. I want to throw out a special offer for your listeners.
Yeah,
because this go-to-market operating system that I mentioned, it is going to be our primary driver, our force as we head into 2026. And I'm going to offer for your listeners a 30-minute working session. You'll also get my first 100 days play call sheet. This is about a $10,000 in value.
wow.
You'll walk away at the end of the 30 minutes spending with me. Your top 3 revenue blockers will fully diagnose them. I'll give you a 45-day acceleration roadmap and the framework that I'll provide you with. It should compress your sales cycle by no less than 15-25%. So that is my Business Growth Spotlight listener special. It's our GTM operating system, the 30-minute working session.
So if you're not running to the show notes right now to grab that, then I don't know what you're doing. But we're going to have that all information all there for you. So make sure you grab it. Connect with Sam. He's amazing. All of his links, social media, website links are in there as well. I'm like so excited. Thank you, Sam, because I love this. I've had so much fun with you today. And I knew this was going to be a great conversation once we started chatting behind the scenes. For those of you watching Sam and I on YouTube, thank you. We're grateful you're here. Drop a note, tell him how amazing he was and all the value you got from this conversation. If you know somebody, a business that would benefit from Sam, I know you do, and what he does and who he serves and how he can help, then please share this with them. Help them move into 2026 ready to go, hit the ground running in creating the success that they want over this next year. For those of you listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, thank you. We're glad you're here. We'd love a review, preferably 5 stars. That helps us share Sam and what he does and all of our amazing guests and this podcast with more people. The goal of this podcast and why I created it was because we want to see more businesses succeed. Too many businesses fail within the first 5 years, and Sam and my guests are on a mission to support our mission to helping more businesses grow and thrive, especially in the world of AI. We've got a lot of opportunity here, and we want to see more businesses take advantage of that and grow. Promised y'all a gift. So on top of Sam's amazing gift, make sure you grab that. Don't go get that first. But if you are looking to grow your business and you're trying different things to do to get visibility, Sam shared with you what works for him. Go grab our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint and grab that. It's free. It's yours. And let us know what you think of it. Sam, can you please share with us anything, or do you have any last words? Anything that I didn't get to touch on or I didn't get to ask you today before we wrap up?
No, I think we said a lot. We said it all. I think there's more to come, though. Again, here's what I know. Here's what I know. I know that, sometimes you need a bounce. Sometimes you need a different perspective. This is why I annually invest 6 figures for me to participate in educational symposiums, is so that way I get to know the best of that's out there. The good news for those in your audience, I'm a sharer. So you ask, I'll tell. I would love to work with everyone I speak with, but I know that that's not the reality. But if there's something that you got out of today, and it helps propel your business forward, please share with Heidi and I, because this is the stuff we live for. This is why we do what we do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your generosity today, Sam. Thank you for being here, for taking time out of your busy day. I know you're travel a lot and you're a busy man. So I really appreciate you taking time to be with us here today. Thank you all for listening to Sam and I. Please connect with him. Go take advantage of his amazing gift and his generosity. I'm just blown away by the gift that he's offering you all. So please take advantage of it. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.